Hello and welcome to episode 101 of the official EstablishTheRun.com podcast. My name is Adam Levitan. I'm one of the co-founders here at ETR, and we are just 1 week away from NFL football. I have 2 drafts this week. It is time to brush up the rankings, get them finalized, get the tiers finalized one last time. For that, I, of course, am joined by fellow co-founder Evan Silva. Evan, Uncle Lenny has been cut. It's a glorious day. Good afternoon. What's going on?
Yeah, a lot going on. A lot of rankings changes. I did a bunch on Saturday. There are going to be a bunch, and I did a bunch this morning, and there are going to be a bunch more this evening. I've got like 7 or 8 guys I need to move up or down on a list. I'm just going to sit down and bang it all out tonight before dinner, like in the early evenings. But yeah, I mean, we tried to be pragmatic about the Leonard Fournette situation. I think that in hindsight, a lot of people, and although we did, I mean, people came at us with like serious vitriol about the Leonard Fournette take, and but we were really just trying to be pragmatic and probabilistic, and instead of focusing on, oh, Leonard Fournette has been a top 12 RB1 in each of his first 3 seasons, we took a top-down approach, a team-level approach. We understood, we pay attention all off-season. We don't dismiss, what teams do. Teams speak to us through their actions. And the Jaguars were speaking to us the way that they have just completely disintegrated their defense over the past couple of off-seasons. The way that they are going into this season with, now Divine Ozibga. This is a team that is tanking. They're doing almost exactly what the Dolphins did last year. And no, I mean, the players on the field are not, they need to have good tape. So, if other teams try to pick them up, like, they're going to play hard. And the coaches are going to try to win for the most part. But the front office has set this team up to fail purposely. And I think they're clearly going for Trevor Lawrence, and they were able to save over $4 million against the salary cap by cutting Leonard Fournette. And that they don't need that this year, but they certainly could use that next year. And you can roll over cap space from year to year. So it made all the sense in the world that that Leonard Fournette would not finish the season with the Jaguars and maybe not even make it to week 1. And he wound up getting cut 10 days before week 1, or at least they moved on. We're recording this before the transaction deadline for the day, which I believe is 4 p.m. Eastern time. Something might happen between now and then, but the Jaguars obviously moving on for Leonard Fournette. He did not fit in with what they are doing from a team build strategy.
Yeah. So before we get into today's podcast, I did want to say one other thing on Leonard Fournette. We don't want to be an ass, we don't want a victory lap, because frankly, we're going to be wrong a ton, right? But honestly, I think I can speak for Evan as well. It's just hard not to get excited when the process works out, right? Like, we spend so much time digesting beat writer rumblings, reports from national reporters, how the team is building, thinking about Leonard's skill set, the roster. It was just good process to be off of Leonard Fournette. So, we don't want to be an ass and victory lap and all that. It's just, it's hard not to be excited when the process works out. Okay.
And there are still avenues for Leonard Fournette to work out. Probably not pay off his 3rd round ADP, but he still could pay off his RB 20 or whatever ADP if he lands into the right situation. We know that backfields can change fast. Injuries happen at the running back position more frequently than anywhere else. Some other guy, he goes to a decent landing spot. Some other guy gets hurt. He winds up with a bunch of carries. I mean, there are still avenues. I mean, we're looking good right now, but I mean, Leonard Fournette, there are still avenues for him to work out this year.
Yeah, and we'll talk about potential landing spots and the rest of Jacksonville's backfield in a second. On today's pod, we're going to talk about the rest of the news, latest ranking changes, important things you need to know heading into your draft. I wanted to remind everyone that this is the last week of fully free podcast. Here is the podcast schedule for in season, which starts next week. Tuesdays will be my solo pod. That will be free. Also on Tuesday, Evan and I will be going team by team, talking about what we learned the previous week. So after week 1 on Tuesday, Evan and I will sit down on the Tuesday before week 2, talk about what we learned. Just like last year, 16 of those AFC, NFC. AFC will be free 1 week. NFC will be free 1 week. The other one will be behind the paywall. On Friday nights, Evan, Andrew Wiggins, and myself will break down the full DFS main slate on a position-by-position basis. Best show of the week, in my opinion, that's behind the paywall. It'll also show up on a premium podcast feed paywalled. And then on new show, very excited about this new show we're announcing Saturday morning, Drew Dinkmeyer and Mike Leone talking all things DFS GPPs. Legit, I mean, to me, two of the best DFS tournament players in the world, talking ownership, correlation, leverage in the context of each week's slate. That's behind the paywall as well. Oh, and by the way, all these shows are available for replay if you missed them. And then Sunday morning, just like last season, Evan and I will sit down around 11:45 after the inactives come out. We'll talk about last minute news, take your questions. That is behind the paywall as well. So anyways, if you have the draft kit and you want to upgrade to the bundle now, please email us, support@establishthorun.com, and we'll get you taken care of. Again, the bundle combines the draft kit and in season. Be sure you don't miss any of the pods that are coming up. So again, if you want to upgrade, email us, support@establishthorun.com. If you're curious what else is in our in-season content schedule, you can find that on the site from the About dropdown. All right, let's get into it, Evan. Let's start with Jacksonville. What happens now in Jacksonville? They have Raquel Armstead. They have Divine Ezigbo. They have Chris Thompson. They're going to be a very, very bad team. Do you have any interest in anybody left in the Jaguars backfield?
The team level evaluation has not changed. So, and we don't think that this team is going to be scoring many touchdowns from weeks 9 through 16. This is a statistic that's been pointed out by Rich Rebar of Sharp Football. From weeks 9 through 16, which is really when the Jaguars tank started last year. I mean, they got rid of Jalen Ramsey. This has been in the works for a while. They scored 20 or fewer points in every single one of those games last season. They're going to be a bad offense. They're not going to score a lot of touchdowns. We happen to like touchdowns at Establish the Run. And and it's still going to be a committee. I mean, it's going to be probably a 3-way committee, maybe even 4. They've got this UDFA. I was talking to the guys at Roster Watch, and Byron is the name of the guy. He went to Jaguars practice, and he was describing it to his buddy Alex, and he was like, what would happen? Like Leonard Fournette would come in for a rep, and then James Robinson, this UDFA rookie, would come in, and then Ezigbo would get a couple reps. I mean, there was no like Leonard Fournette. He didn't look bad, but you could just tell from the reps, they're going to give a bunch of guys reps. This is what the Dolphins did last year. Nobody had more players on their 53 than the Dolphins last year. It was a roster churn. They're going to give some dudes chances. They take advantage. They can get more opportunities. So they've got 4 guys that can play: Divine Ezigbo, Raquel Armstead, Chris Thompson, I think that, and James Robinson. I think that the guy with the most job security would be Chris Thompson, because he is a defined player who has history with the OC. He's still not someone that I'm rushing out to draft. The injury history stuff still stands. And again, they're not going to score touchdowns. So you could take him late. I wouldn't get excited about it. My favorite back, just straight back, that they have is Divine Ezigbo, and who's been a favorite of Josh Norris, our buddy from Roto World. He's got a great athletic profile. I think he only had 1 big season at Nebraska. I don't know why he's one of these guys that is he was good in the preseason last year. You could tell that he would be good if he got opportunities, but UDFAs just sometimes never get an opportunity. Well, he's in a really good spot to get opportunity this year. Raquel Armstead has missed almost all of camp. He missed the front end with on the COVID list. Lately, he's been out listed with a non-COVID illness. He wasn't practicing today. We're recording on Monday. And then James Robinson, again, the intriguing UDFA rookie. I mean, they're going to play a bunch of guys. And I did put Ezigbo, Thompson, and Armstead into the top 150, but they're all in the 130s.
Yeah. I would not be going out of my way to draft any of these guys. I agree with Evan. My favorite would be Ezigbo, but I don't even know if I'd have any of these guys in my personal top 150. It's just going to be such a bad team, and they're sharing as it is. I do think, though, if Ezigbo were to get the full job, I think it could be at least interesting. We're going to know more about Leonard Fournette's landing spot soon. I don't want to spend too much time on this because it is only 2:30 p.m. Eastern on Monday. We'll probably know more by this evening about where Leonard Fournette goes, and we'll have more on the site about that. But there's some places that Leonard Fournette can mess some stuff up. I think the most likely landing spot for Leonard Fournette, I haven't, and people talk to us all the time. Like, we do have relationships with beat writers and some agents and people in the industry, national reporters. And so we're not just pulling all this out of thin air. I don't have any inside information on where Leonard Fournette will end up. I just think it makes sense for the Bears to look at him. I mean, we know they have a bunch of donkeys in their front office. We know whoever signs Leonard Fournette is probably kind of a donkey and not thinking analytically. We know David Montgomery has a groin injury. So I'd peg the favorite at Chicago right now, but I could see him landing in Philly. I mean, I could see him landing in a bunch of different places. I know it's early, Evan. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this. Where do you think Uncle Lenny ends up?
I don't know. Just thinking about places where he could go that he will probably have a new team by the time like everyone listens to this, but he could score a lot of touchdowns if he goes to Kansas City as an upgrade, like on Darrell Williams. He could go to Tampa Bay and definitely mess up the Rojo hype. He could go to, I think the Bears definitely make a lot of sense with the injury to David Montgomery. And that's a bad injury for a running back. A soft tissue groin injury, like he's not going to be able to condition optimally while he's out. When he comes back, that's going to be prone to setbacks. That's not a good situation for David Montgomery. I think they could use help in Atlanta. I don't think that they can, Atlanta. I don't think it's super smart for Atlanta to go into the season with Todd Gurley and then, Brian Hill. And I mean, there are a lot of places where he could, number one, mess stuff up. Number two, maintain a level of productivity to where he is still going to be like, a flex play or a low end RB2.
Mm-hmm. All right. Enough Leonard Fournette talk. I'm sick of it already. Let's get to an injury that happened that I was sick about. I'm sure you were sick about too. Jalen Reagor dislocates his shoulder, a small labrum tear, it sounds like. And it doesn't sound like something he's going to be able to play through. Early reports on Jalen Reagor is that he will not need surgery, but he is expected to miss 3 to 4 weeks. This Eagles team was already desperate at wide receiver, not expecting Alshon to be ready for week 1. And looks like it's going to be Deshaun Jackson and JJ Arcega-Whiteside starting across from each other with Greg Ward in the slot. How far did you move Jalen Reagor down in your rankings? Where would you take him now? And any outlook on what's left in Philly?
Yeah, painfully. And this has happened now with 2 rookie receivers who I really liked because Ayuk, suffered the hamstring injury after crushing early in camp. And now Reagor's got this is not a great shoulder injury either. Dr. Chow has compared it to what Anthony Miller played through as a rookie. And I mean, he's going to have to wear a harness when he comes back. Anthony Miller did score 7 touchdowns that year, had some, very fortunate touchdown luck and was somewhat of a fantasy factor. But I moved Jalen Reagor from wide receiver 38 to wide receiver 51. You can still take him as a late round flyer, but just as a general principle, not big on drafting players that are already injured. How I did take a stance on a positive stance on this was we are going to be drafting Deshaun Jackson on every team from now on, every single team. I put him at wide receiver 30. I put him ahead of Stephon Diggs. His ADP in FFPC main event is in the 130s. We have him at 59 right now. So we're taking Deshaun Jackson on every single team from now on.
Yeah. And you don't have to take Deshaun Jackson at 59. As a reminder, you can use the rankings, but also combine it with some market stuff in ADP.
Yeah, but make sure you get him. Make sure
you get Deshaun Jackson. I'd also note Deshaun Jackson kind of stuck out to me, 4,900 on DraftKings in week 1, expecting the Redskins to really have a funnel defense. I mean, really a nasty front 7 that the Redskins have, and they're going to struggle a lot in the back end. And I think Deshaun Jackson is going to make a lot of sense as we start to think about DFS for week 1. I'd also note no Alshon, no Brandon Brooks, no Andre Dillard. It's not looking great for the Eagles offensively. Has this moved you at all on Carson Wentz's outlook?
A little bit, but not enough to move him in the rankings. And the Eagles were one of the teams that actually did come into training camp with legitimate offensive line depth.
Yeah.
And so they were always in good hands in terms of being able to weather a storm like this. It's to the point where they have, no margin for error now. But it has not been enough for me to move Miles Sanders off of where I have him or Carson Wentz yet. The Greg Ward, I think, actually is a guy that I need to move up just in the back end. And still hammering Zach Ertz. I mean, Zach Ertz should be your fourth round pick every time. I really started drafting him like a couple of weeks ago because it just, things were playing for him. He's going to be the alpha again. He's going to catch a ton of balls, and people have, try to talk themselves out of Zach Ertz every year, and it really never works out. He's like I think that if we could go back and do that round by round, the round by round podcast, Zach Ertz would be my favorite fourth round pick right now.
Yeah. It's just so tough. I love the wide receivers there, but I hear what you're saying on Zach Ertz. A lot of people have asked about JJ Arcega-Whiteside. As Evan alluded to, I think he could still be the fifth option. I think maybe the top four options are Djax, Ertz, Goddard, Greg Ward, and then Arcega-Whiteside. So it would still be very, very late round flyer for me on him. All right, let's move to Chicago. We already mentioned the David Montgomery injury. You have dropped David Montgomery significantly. And the report is that David Montgomery might miss quote unquote 2 to 4 weeks with his groin issue. But you reacted harshly on David Montgomery, moving him down to RB49, also moved Tariq Cohen up a ton, and that stirred some debate in Slack. I'll let you defend the Tariq Cohen move up to David Montgomery plummet, and then I'll give my take on why I'm not sure on Tariq Cohen being too high on him. But go ahead on the Chicago backfield.
So what is David Montgomery at full tilt? RB22, something like that. Definitely, we were never drafting him for his upside, right? We were drafting him for volume purposes in an offense we don't necessarily believe in, where he gets, vultured in the passing game by Tariq Cohen. So now we have and there's nothing that I like to avoid more in fantasy than low upside, low floor guys. And now we have David Montgomery injured. He was already a low upside guy. Now he's a low floor guy too. And I mean, I think that the Bears are also, you have to be a little bit forward thinking here, because you look down the depth chart, it's like Ryan Nall is the next guy up. And I know he's been okay for us in preseason at times, but you watch him play in preseason. I mean, he's just like a big bulldozer. And I mean, we know he's not very good, right? He's just eating up preseason carries. So, I mean, I think that there's still a very good chance that the Bears could add a veteran running back before week 1. Now we have Leonard Fournette available. And this particular injury, again, is going to affect how he's able to condition, and is highly prone to setbacks. So this is an avoid player. He wound up as the number 1 player on the shy away list because I want no part of low floor, low ceiling fantasy players on my teams. Yeah.
I agree out on David Montgomery. I think that he could come back and be serviceable, but certainly not someone I don't want to take in, the 5th, 6th, even 7th round, most likely. I think more interesting is the Tariq Cohen stuff. I'm not sure that they're going to find a role change for Tariq Cohen. Like, how many more touches can you project for Tariq Cohen? They're not going to give him the ball between the tackles. And that's why I kind of think they're a prime candidate to sign Leonard Fournette. But you did give Tariq Cohen a nice big bump. Talk to the people about why you're more on Tariq Cohen now, and if you really think he can get, how many more touches he can get per game.
Well, I think that if he just gets a few more carries per game and a few more targets per game, I mean, Montgomery had 35 targets last year, and where are those likely to go unless they do sign Leonard Fournette? We'll see about that. But if Tariq Cohen becomes a guy who can get 7 to 11 carries and 5 to 7 targets per game, he is very, very much worthy of, a flex play in PPR leagues. And that's really where we had him. I put him to the RB30. I don't think he's very good. However, I also am aware that my talent evaluation can come and go and is very often biased by certain factors that aren't necessarily predictive, number 1. And number 2, biased by opportunity and even recency bias. He was one of the worst skill position players in the league, but he's good in the return game. He's good with the ball in his hands. He can certainly catch passes. He was good earlier in his career. So the talent evaluation is nebulous. But I think that the opportunity absolutely increased because I don't think they're going to give a big role to Ryan Nall, and David Montgomery is shaky at best early in the year.
Okay. Let's move to Kansas City's backfield, and let's talk about this without thinking about Leonard Fournette. Let's just assume Chiefs are not in play at all for Leonard Fournette. The somewhat surprising news was that Darrell Williams appears to be well ahead of DeAndre Washington for the backup role. And this is notable because, I'm not convinced that Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to get 80% of the running back touches for the Chiefs. And if it's 60%, or if it's 65%, I mean, whoever gets the rest of that is going to have value, and the handcuff value is going to be immense. So Darrell Williams reportedly running as the RB2 ahead of DeAndre Washington. If I was taking a flyer right now, I would certainly be on Darrell Williams over DeAndre Washington. Tell the people a little bit about Darrell Williams and where you're at on this backfield backup situation right now.
So late in the draft process, my approach to this backfield has been to take multiple Chiefs backup running backs. I did a main event FFPC with some buddies from St. Louis on was it Saturday night? We got 20 roster spots. There's no trades in FFPC main event. It's all about waivers. So really what you want to do is you want to try to find guys that could be hot waiver pickups early in the season, put them on your roster so that you're not the guy spending, $750 of your $1,000 budget in weeks 2 or 3. And so we drafted all of them. We started in the 12th round with DeAndre Washington. We took Darrell Williams in, the 14th or the 15th, and we took Darwin in like the 17th. And people are like, oh, why are you devoting so many roster spots to running backs? One of these guys is going to get cut. Good. If one of the guys gets cut, that narrows the backup tree behind Clyde Edwards-Helaire. We want that to happen. And then we could just drop that guy and we can go pick somebody else up. Or maybe, Darwin Thompson or Darrell Williams goes to like a good landing spot. That also could happen. So use your, I think it's a smart way to stack your bench. Think about, first of all, running back is a premium position. This is a great offense to invest in. And there are outs to where, look, we have 3 backup Chiefs running backs on our roster right now, but if just one of those pops, it is absolutely going to be worth it. So that's been my approach lately. And then John Daigle from Roto World and I did a live draft in Chicago last night, and I did it again with Darwin Thompson and Darrell Williams. DeAndre Washington went a little bit earlier. In terms of the depth chart, I just don't know. I don't know. And so therefore, I'm going to be taking multiple shots with late round picks on these guys.
Yeah, would be yet another devastating blow to the shower narrative for DeAndre Washington to get cut when he played with Patrick Mahomes and showered with Patrick Mahomes at Texas Tech. Speaking of the Chiefs, I just wanted to point out, and we haven't really talked about this much at all. I know Mecole Hardman was on your shy away list, which you guys can read on the site, 30 players. Evan is avoiding at ADP. But Sammy Watkins' ADP is around 130, and Mecole's is around 83. And, beat reporters, as expected, Sammy Watkins is running ahead of Mecole Hardman. Is there a chance, and we haven't talked a lot about Sammy Watkins, and I know he's been brutal or at least unproductive outside of the playoffs last year for the most part, is a chance we're overlooking Sammy Watkins and people are just so overly excited with Mecole? Have you found yourself taking any Sammy Watkins?
No. Nope. He's okay as like a wide receiver 5. I don't even think that Mecole Hardman on certain builds, like last night, Daigle started out. He was at the 112. He started with Tyreek and Kelsey, and then Mahomes made it all the way back to him at 312. And I think he took Mecole Hardman in like the 7th or 8th or 9th. I think that makes sense. But if you're just expecting Mecole Hardman like to pop, he's going to need like guys in front of him. He's going to need Tyreek Hill to get hurt, actually, because he is the direct backup Z receiver behind Tyreek Hill. And then, he might not even benefit if Sammy Watkins gets hurt because like they have DeMarcus Robinson and Byron Pringle and all these guys that they can play. So Mecole Hardman, he's going to be a return man this year, and he's going to be awesome at it. And he's going to make some big plays, but we're never going to know when they're on offense, but we're never going to know when they're going to come. And that's not, I'm not looking for that.
Yep. Okay. This one's tricky, man. And I was doing this Reddit Ask Me Anything. People, when I did the Periscope Ask Me Anything, everybody wants to know what to do with the running backs in contract situations. I'm talking about Dalvin Cook. I'm talking about Joe Mixon. I'm talking about Alvin Kamara. I don't really have strong takes for people other than deadlines usually spur action here, whether it's a deal or they decide to play. I'm not too worried about it yet. I would take Derrick Henry above Dalvin. And given today's news, maybe I would take Derrick Henry over Kamara too, not in full PPR and maybe in half PPR. But anyways, how are you handling these contract situations now? I feel like that's the question everybody has. And by the way, everybody focuses so much on round one. I get it. I think more of our edge is to be gained in the later rounds, but everybody's questions are about round one. I understand. But anyways, I just wanted to get that tilt off my chest. But yeah, what do you have to say to the people about Dalvin, Mixon, Kamara contract situations?
And because there have been changes this year, it makes the situations more difficult to predict. I haven't moved anybody due to the contract concerns. We did do a podcast with Adam Schefter that will be coming out hopefully very soon. And he touched on several contract situations and not just those running backs. There's a wide receiver in Arizona that might have a contract situation also brewing who hasn't been practicing. So I don't know. I hope it's okay to say that I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's okay. And for me, it would only really be a factor in extreme tiebreaker situations where I couldn't decide between two guys. Let's move on to DeAndre Swift, who missed 7 straight practices, maybe 8 straight practices with a leg injury. Did get back in a limited practice today, Monday. Have you been tempted at all to move DeAndre Swift down and Kerryon Johnson up? Because I like DeAndre Swift, and I think he'll eventually play the similar role that Alvin Kamara played as a rookie. However, in week 1, it's hard for me to project a lot for him given the offseason, given how much time he's missed. What are you thinking right now on the Lions backfield?
Yeah, so I have been tempted to move DeAndre Swift down. However, there's really no one behind him still that I like better than him. And eventually, I think that he's going to be the lead back in Detroit, who I think has an underrated offense. And we've loved DeAndre Swift from day one. So I don't know. I have him like RB26, RB28, somewhere in there. We've been high the entire time. We've been higher than consensus on Kerryon Johnson, and I have considered moving him down. I mean, he's a running back playing with a leg brace, okay? But he has a clear lead right now in the backfield. Again, we like the offense. We think it's underrated. Matt Patricia and Darrell Bevell do like to run the ball. Kerryon Johnson has been a fine player in the NFL when he's been healthy. And he's probably going to be usable early in the season as a low-end RB2 flex. I don't think that either of these situations is setting up, either of these backs are setting up as potential league winners this year. These are going to be guys that you're floating, will sometimes be on the bench. Like, you're not going to play probably either guy against Chicago in week 1, right? But, could be usable as the season progresses.
Yeah. Okay. We mentioned the Jaguars. We didn't mention Laviska Shenault, and he has entered the top 150 at wide receiver 61. One of the reasons that I thought Leonard Fournette's pass game role would decline this year was because a lot of the short area pass catching stuff Leonard Fournette was asked to do last year, they can give that stuff to Shenault. So you moved Shenault in there before the Fournette news. Do you feel even better about Shenault now?
Yes, he's on my list of players to move up further, which I'll be doing later today. Leone loves him. I'm good with that. I think Karain loves him too.
Yep.
I like that. Laviska has a very, very interesting profile. He's got a lot of opportunity. He could be their goal line back. I mean, that is not crazy to suggest. He scored a lot of rushing touchdowns at Colorado. They would use him in the Wildcat. There have been Dede Westbrook has been nursing a shoulder injury when he's been out. Laviska has been in the slot. Catching high percentage passes and, a way to manufacture one of their best playmakers touches. So, yeah, Viska will be moving up the rankings.
Mike Williams, original reports were that Mike Williams was expected to be back for week 1. I'm talking about big Mike Williams on the Chargers. Now reports say he's going to be out, I don't know, 4-6 weeks with this shoulder injury. He was going to be an every down player in the X. They do not have a lot behind them. Early favorite to start in place of Mike Williams looks like Jalen Guyton, who I don't know a lot about, and I highly doubt he'll command more than a, I don't know, 7, 8, 9, 10% target share. Has Mike Williams' injury moved the needle for you at all on Keenan Allen, who I was and still am out on, or Hunter Henry, guys like that?
Never wanted Mike Williams on my teams. Don't like this offense. Avoiding it as much as possible, with the exception of Austin Eckler, who I've very much warmed to as a late second round pick. I think he's going right where he belongs. And if you are in that, we talk a lot about that 2-3 turn being difficult. He's about as good of a pick as you can make there. Tyrod Taylor, super late, willing to take him as like a quarterback 3. I like him as a quarterback 3 in best ball. Keenan Allen, I don't see how it's going to work for him this year. And then never wanted Mike Williams. I mean, his target potential is low. This team is going to finish, I think, bottom 5 in plays run. Mike Williams has been like an underachiever on the field very much, and now he's dealing with a shoulder injury, and he's a contested catch clasher. That's not a good combination. So Mike Williams, he's on the shy away list.
Yep. CeeDee Lamb, you moved up. Wide receiver 45, moved him up from wide receiver 53. And immediately what people are going to say is, well, Evan loves Amari Cooper. Evan loves Michael Gallup. Evan loves CeeDee Lamb. Evan loves Blake Jarwin. Evan loves Ezekiel Elliott. Is there enough? How is it possible that one offense, even an offense that we think is the Chiefs of the NFC or whatever, can they support all these guys' ADPs? I think is a viable question, specifically on Lamb and everybody. So talk to people about moving CeeDee Lamb up.
Yeah, we're still below ADP on CeeDee Lamb, which is unfortunate because I really do like him. But again, the reason, how are we going to get all this production? I do think that this team is going to score a lot of touchdowns and score a lot of fantasy points as a whole. And so that's why, CeeDee Lamb he's a good late round pick. He's, even though we're below ADP on him, he's a good late round pick. The other guys I think have higher target floors, Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup. And then, you take you're like, looking at tiers almost within the offense itself. And then I think CeeDee Lamb and then Blake Jarwin, if you were to sort of rank them, obviously Ezekiel Elliott is going to get the ball a lot in there too. But with CeeDee Lamb, and with just, I want to stack this offense just, and Greg Zierlein, even in leagues where they're still using kickers, he can be a part of that. I think the Cowboys defense is pretty interesting now with their pass rush with DeMarcus Lawrence, Aldon Smith, who's apparently been tearing it up in camp. And then they signed Everson Griffin as well. I think they're going to be a team that gets into a lot of shootouts. Jonathan Bales has shown, hey, if you can't get, a defense at home going against a horrible quarterback, the next best option is a defense playing in a shootout. And I think that's going to happen a lot with Dallas this year. It's just continuing to bet on and the Dallas offense, which and Dallas really as a team, I think they're going to be good as a team too.
Oh, for sure. I made a bet earlier this season, Dallas to win the NFC East. I think I got like plus 110 or something. I'm not sure what the price is now, but I definitely think they should be the odds-on favorite to win the NFC East. Speaking of Dallas, you made a move at the top, and everybody reacts so wildly to the moves at the top, as I mentioned before. It's like I liken it to like people studying poker, and like Doug Polk tweeted about this. Like he solves like an issue pre-flop that helps him win like 0.1 more BBs per 100, and then he just like forgets about the stuff where he's punting off 57 BBs post-flop. But anyways, it's just like the first round is so tight between Zeke and Saquon. You did move Zeke above Saquon though, and I don't think that this is a huge deal or nearly as big a deal as people will make it out to be, because sitting here today, of course there's going to be a winner at the end of the year between Zeke and Saquon, but sitting here right now it's like 51-49 or 52-48, and people get so tied up in it. But anyways, the people want an explanation. Zeke over Saquon, why make the move now?
We've had in our tiers that it's a toss-up between the two guys for months. Like it literally says it's a toss-up. And do not treat the rankings as a Bible. Treat it as sort of a rough draft. And if you have different personal preferences than me, especially for guys like that are in the same tier, which these guys are in the same tier, take Saquon Barkley. I have no problem with that. I mean, I've done that myself. I've taken Saquon Barkley over Ezekiel Elliott, but as we're getting closer to the season and, we're more and more concerned really with how we're going to come out the gates. And we've talked about this giant schedule early in the season. That's concerning for Saquon Barkley. And the Cowboys schedule coming out the gates is crisp. We're ready to rock. Mm-hmm. So I'm with you. It's a very, very small tweak that seems big, but isn't. And again, do not treat the rankings as a Bible. And then, make adjustments for your own personal preferences. Saquon Barkley, I think he's going to have a great year. I have him as the RB3 overall.
Yeah. I mean, Zeke is going to score an incredible amount of touchdowns this year. Like, it's hard to see Zeke scoring less than 13 or 14 touchdowns, health permitting. All right. Last thing I want to talk about tonight is the Le'Veon Bell stuff. This is getting almost comical with Le'Veon Bell. Like,
it's hilarious. It truly is comical.
Oh, I mean, the articles, from even not just, I don't know, Manish has been really hard on Adam Gase and the Le'Veon Bell situation.
Deservedly so.
Deservedly so. The other guys like Brian Costello and the other guys are now chipping in too, just being like, Frank Gore is looks better than Le'Veon Bell. And Adam Gase is not letting Le'Veon play in scrimmages. And he says it's because of hamstring. Le'Veon, he says he doesn't have a hamstring injury. I mean, this is getting to a point where it seems like there's going to be some boiling point. They bring in Kalen Balaj. They have Frank Gore. They have LaMichael Pirine. I mean, obviously nobody who's listened to our podcast at all or been on the site at all will ever have Le'Veon Bell, I would hope. But it's just funny to talk about the situation. Any new reaction to the Jets backfield?
It's just been, interesting every day to kind of pay attention to it. And, the whole beat writer dynamic with the Jets and the fans attacking the beat writers because they write the truth, and the fans hate the truth because the truth sucks. And it's been amazing. And even Costello, who is, known as more of a beat writer that doesn't really criticize the organization, he has been harsh on the Jets as well. And I don't know, it's crazy, but yeah, I mean, we don't want any part of Le'Veon Bell. We don't really want any part of Frank Gore. We don't really want any part of the Jets in general, except for the pass catchers, who I do think have locked in target shares, especially Crowder. I know he's not sexy, but I mean, he could have 150. He had 122 last year, and he's going to have less target competition this year. Yeah. And we like Herndon because we believe in his talent. And I wish Perryman was healthy. I think that he would be an excellent late round dart throw. I think he still is to some extent. And then Darnold is like a quarterback, super low end quarterback 2, high end quarterback 3, who does have job security. I think when you're reaching those really late rounds in a best ball draft, you concern yourself with job security at times more than anything else. But yeah, we do not want Le'Veon. I feel like I have him at RB26, and I feel like it's still too high.
Yeah. Hopefully you guys have not gotten any of Le'Veon. It's going to be ugly. Okay. That is going to do it for this rankings change / news podcast. I know many of you have drafts coming up over the next 7 days. Big good luck. Hopefully you've digested everything in the draft kit. Hopefully you listened to all the podcasts. I think you will be in very, very good shape and more prepared than your opponents by a wide margin. Again, the draft kit is just $35 if you have not got it yet. If you have the draft kit, want to upgrade to in season, please email support@establishingrun.com. We will get you hooked up, and check Twitter for more announcements we're going to have this week about what's going on in the in season package. So for Evan, for producer Luke, I am Adam. Good luck in your drafts.